Have you got what it takes to be a Rolling Thunder undercover cop? Hell yes! Your code name for an outstanding investment. Okay. Rolling Thunder, a game that always gets compared to Shinobi. Heck, I even mentioned the game briefly in my complete history of Shinobi video too. And for good reason. Just look at them. But before you switch off the video thinking this is just a carbon copy of the more popular Ninja franchise, just you wait a second. Rolling Thunder actually predates the Shinobi franchise by about a year. But then again, you would know this if you actually watched the video. Anyway, what I'm trying to say is that if you like this, you're gonna like this. In fact, I have no real nostalgia towards this game whatsoever, and like so many games in my complete history series, I only played this when I got into discovering the classic games I missed using the multiple arcade machine emulator. And hey, if you have never played it, then I highly suggest you do. You will not be disappointed. So put down those ninja stars, pick up your gun, and join me and the World Police Criminal Organisation as we take a look at one of Namco's biggest mix-ups of the mid-80s with Rolling Thunder. The game's roots, its inspiration, its legacy, and of course, its games. Welcome to Slope's Game Room. Here it is, Rolling Thunder. Yet again another example of Namco leading the way as one of the most influential arcade game designers that others are always going to try and copy. But they're hardly ever able to live up to the standards that this company put forward. The fifth of only 6 games to use the classic Namco System 86 arcade board at the back end of 1986, set in an awesome 1960s style world. But before looking into the game that really was quite the influence, I think we're in fact getting a little ahead of ourselves. So let's go back to the beginning. Namco, a company we are all too familiar with, especially if you've been watching this channel for a while. Yep, we've looked at GB, their first move into the arcades, but would you look at everything else? This is the company that released such legendary titles as Pac-Man, Dig Dug, Pole Position, Galaxian and Mappy. And this was all just within the first few years of releasing games. It was safe to say that if a game sported this sexy red logo when you turned it on, then you're pretty much guaranteed a good time. But on top of all that innovation that the company oozed out of its Japan offices, just like any good game developer, it wasn't afraid to keep a close eye on the competition. And although the company had dipped its feet in the side-scrolling water with such titles as Pac-Land and Baraduke, it was the fantastic 1983 game Elevator Action that really interested them. Not only are you running left and right, but using the elevator you are now moving up and down. You can shoot enemies by ducking and you're able to use the doors scattered about the level to your advantage. Although you can look at something like this as an obvious move forward for the side-scrolling beat-em-up genre, I still think it's important to note the importance of this decent sidestep for a genre that was starting to get a little overcrowded. Elevator Action from Taito was something new and more importantly was actually a lot of fun. Another great game series that I would like to cover in more detail one day, but for now we'll just stick with Rolling Thunder. So, Namco looked at this game and knew they had to do something. And a short 3 years later in 1986 they released their take on the multi-layered puzzle platforming shooter game with Rolling Thunder. A far more stylised game than the competition, and although it may have seemed quite far removed compared to the mostly cutesy non-gender specific games the company was well known for, I personally think they added enough 60s flair to the game to make it stand out. Why is that exactly? Well, let's take a look. As I already mentioned, it's the 1960s, well, at least it looks like the 1960s, and you take control of the secret agent hero known as Albatross, as he makes his way through the underground lair of the evil organisation known as Geldra, in an attempt to save Leela Blitz from the evil Mambu Corporation and his army of hood-wearing badniks. Honestly, there is actually a fair bit more to talk about with the story, but obviously it's quite generic. Go look it up yourself if you're really that bothered. Oh, and one quick side note, I have read on quite a few different sites that the game was based on an early 80s manga. But what manga? Well, they all seem to forget that bit, so I've got no idea. Feel free to leave a comment if you have any more information on this game's origins. Either way, the storyline, as I said, is very generic and the art style is pretty good, but the gameplay, well, that's where this game really shines. It's time to get tactical and plan your moves a little more than your average fighter. Duck behind crates, go indoors and jump with great speed between the top and the bottom floor to either dodge enemy fire or take them out. It's up to you. Now, because this game is an arcade game, it obviously has a bit of a hard streak from the get-go, in an attempt to get more money from your mother's purse. Sadly, as you no doubt experienced, this was not always going to happen, and therefore you're not really going to get very far in the game. However, the more you play, the better you become, and the somewhat challenging gameplay at first really does start to become quite exciting as you make your way through what seems like a fairly short game, with only 5 stages at first, before it shocks you with playing through the game again with a harder difficulty, by giving you stronger enemies and a slightly modified level setup, turning an already fairly difficult game into a completionist's worst nightmare. Overall, the game, although a little repetitive, is actually a lot of fun, if you can get past that difficulty, that is. The more you play it, the more likely it's going to become an old school favourite. And hey, if MAME isn't your thing, then you can get the arcade game on a decent amount of Namco classic collections. So that's the arcade version, but what about the ports? Haha, yes! In fact, this is how I first discovered the game myself. So let's take a look at Nintendo's 8-bit version of the game. Other than the bloody awesome front cover, it's actually even more difficult, possibly too difficult. However, the gameplay is still here, and if you fancy yourself an even harder challenge, then you can't go wrong with the NES or Famicom version of Rolling Thunder. But before you actually get any enjoyment out of this one, you are going to have to play it a lot. But when you do, I do believe that it is fully worth your time. Oh yes, and there is one other reason you might want to get this version of the game, and that's due to this little thing, the Namco 163 Mapper chip, also known as the N163. This was used by Namco for quite a few games in their custom NES carts, to basically enhance the sound of the system and pump out a slightly more Mega Drive sounding game. If you can, get this version over this version, and let those beautiful music notes complement the fun and challenging gameplay. But even though the games were hard, they were far from being crap. Introducing the computer releases. Oh boy. All of these games were ported by Tiertex, and they are not good. The speed that the original had, and was really one of the main selling points for me, has been significantly dropped. The controls are wonky, and, well, they look crap too. It is noted that the Commodore 64 version is the best of the bunch, but honestly, I couldn't really find any enjoyment in that version either, and all I wanted to do was go back to their original and the NES port. And one last thing to note here before moving on is the fact that an Atari Lynx version was also being worked on, but it was never released. So let's move on to the game's sequels, mysteriously titled Rolling Thunder 2. Albatross and Leela return. Well, actually I can't be too sure about that. In fact, I'm not even 100% that the guy in the first game is actually called Albatross. It's never mentioned. Plus this sequel has a far more modern day setting compared to the hippy dippy 60s style of the first game. Some people think it's a new set of agents that have taken on the same old names, but whatever you think, strangely enough, there are actually some incredible strong ties to a future Duck and Cover series that Namco produced. And some actually believe that this Namco series is a direct sequel to the Rolling Thunder set of games. Can you guess what they are? Yep, Time Crisis is believed by some to be sequels to these Rolling Thunder games. Well, in the storyline department anyway. And again, there is no proof of this as Namco themselves have never confirmed it, so it's really up to you guys. So leave your opinion in the comments section. Anyway, back to the game. Now, other than the obvious jumping quality thanks to the 16-bit Namco System 2 hardware, you will notice that this time Leela isn't just a damsel in distress, but instead a playable character. In fact, you can choose either of the characters this time. And get this, with 2 players. Yes, the awesome gameplay of the first game can now be played with a friend cooperatively. I think this game is slightly easier this time round, but the challenge is still there, especially considering the game introduces a few much needed upgrades, like for instance giving the bad guys the ability to actually shoot their gun whilst ducking, which means you're going to have to really think about what you're doing slightly more this time round to get through those 8 stages. Congratulations, once again peace has been obtained in the world, now we will praise you. Ah, I do love me some nice praise. And that music. Rolling Thunder 2 has an absolutely brilliant soundtrack thanks to the work of Mrs. Ayako Seiso, who, in case you didn't know, was a massive influence to that signature Namco sound by producing not only this, but loads of the Ridge Racer soundtracks, Street Fighter soundtracks, Dirt Dash, Starblade and Tekken. And this awesome Rolling Thunder soundtrack, if you're lucky enough to find it, even features a few songs that didn't make the arcade original. However, they did get rearranged for the brilliant Mega Drive port. This port is exclusive to Sega systems, and other than the obvious drop in graphics, it holds up really well. In fact, it's possibly better. 3 new stages totaling 11 in total, a few new enemies, albeit taken from the first game, a few new weapons, and a few new boss encounters compared to the arcade, which only has the 1. Similar to games like Streets of Rage 3, the game also features the storyline in between the stages. And finally, you get an awesome music selection mode as well. Either way, whatever version you decide to get, you're gonna have a good time. Actually, if you're a fan, you should probably try and get them both, as they offer enough variety between them to make the similar experiences well worth it. And what's next? We've had 2 pretty damn good games, and thankfully, the third entry, Rolling Thunder 3, continues to improve the series once again. However, this time, it's not only a Sega console exclusive, but a North American exclusive too. God damn it, that's twice you've done this to us Brits, Namco. Anyway, what's it like? Well, it's fantastic. Yet again, a slight improvement in the controls means that you can now shoot diagonally and whilst jumping. It's even slightly easier this time round, as you can now take more than 1 hit. And although it only has 10 stages compared to number 2's 11 stages, it does also feature 3 hidden bonus stages, with one of them being a recreation of the first game. More weapons, no time limit, an additional attack button for close encounters to help keep hold of your ammunition, and all in all, what you're left with is a very obvious final step forward for the series. However, what I will say is that it has made the game easier and a lot less like the original 2 games. No more constantly trying to map the earlier game's levels in your mind while sneaking through. This is more action, and for most, it's likely to be more fun. But never fear, hardcore 16-bit gamers, if you are good enough to complete this still fairly hard game, then you can unlock the hard mode. Now, the biggest issue with this game is obviously the fact that it no longer has a 2-player mode. In fact, it's not even got the same characters, but as a single player experience, I can't deny that this entry is really one of the best games of its type for the system. And regardless as to what entry you prefer, I think it's a fantastic way to go out for the series. Rolling Thunder games. It's not often on Slope's Game Room that I can say that every single game in a series is good, but ports of that original game aside, I can say it here. The Rolling Thunder games, strangely enough, just do not get the treatment they deserve, and always fall under the shadow of the more popular games that it no doubt influenced in the first place. In fact, not only did other companies completely rip off the Rolling Thunder formula, but Namco did it themselves with the NES game Dead Fox, aka codename Viper. It's practically the exact same game, albeit with a slightly more Contra style look and feel, and if I was going to be brutally honest, a lot better than the original NES port too. But crap rip-offs and tributes aside, I think it's important to understand just how important this series is. Is it worth playing? Hell yes! It's a genre-defying series that no matter what sort of gamer you are, you will find enjoyment with at least one of the games in this series. And hey, if that's still not enough, well, then I suppose you could always go and find the officially made webcomic series based on the games. Thank you for watching the video. It's great to be back finally doing some more complete history videos, and I've got a lot more lined up. And hey, if you want to check out some of these upcoming videos, then be sure to check out my Patreon. A huge thanks to everyone over there that have helped make these episodes a reality, with a special shout out going to Ted Kimmel, Ryan Burford, Ian A. Chapman, Phil Lowlins, Team Not Crash, Casey Garner, Blitz Hedgie, Gavin Gorvez, Ben Hall, Taylor Almond, Tiago Piera dos Santos, and One Life Gaming. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and if you want to check out more of the Complete History series, then click the link on the screen. But for now, this is DJ Slope signing out, and hopefully, I'll see you all next time.